And welcome on in to the latest edition of the Blue Horseshoe Podcast. He is George Bremer. I am Ryan Hickey. It is a historical edition of the Blue Horseshoe Pod, George. Guess what we're doing today? We're going international. That is right. A little spin-off of Behind Enemy Lines. It's going to be a little different today. We're not going to be talking to a Patriots reporter or someone who covers a team. Instead, we're talking to Bill Rosinski on the call on Sunday for Westwood One's coverage of Colts-Patriots, play-by-play man who is in Germany right now currently, who was in Germany last week as well to call the Dolphins-Chiefs game. So we'll get Bill's take on the atmosphere in Germany, what to expect this Sunday from Colts-Patriots. So very excited. George, get your passport ready, buddy. We're going international, baby.
It's a big time for the show. I mean, we're branching out, taking over the world.
Big time. Watch out. Forget about just conquering the U.S. We are now conquering all of Europe as well. So Bill will join us here in a little bit. Obviously, we'll give you our game picks as well. But let's talk about this game, George. I'm in a dangerous position here personally. And here's what I mean by that. I feel very good about this game from a Colts perspective. Going into Sunday, I think we could see the first – okay, I mean, they blew out the Texans. I think we could really see maybe the second blowout game of the season here where I really don't see how the Colts lose on Sunday, to be honest with you. I think this is a matchup where the Patriots offense is not very good. The defense is not very good. The Colts, look, I'm sure the offense is coming off one of the worst games of the season, maybe the worst game on the season. I think matchup-wise, I just don't see how this Colts team loses on Sunday. I'm in a dangerous spot here in terms of confidence-wise. Let's say at a scale of 195%, they win this game. Highest easily all season. Are you with me here? Can you talk me maybe down a little bit? What is your feeling just overall about the Colts' chances going into Germany on Sunday and beating the Patriots?
I wish I was with you. I'm not confident. I'm not thinking that that it's the other way. I'm not 95% on a Patriots victory, so that's good. But I just don't. I don't like where this offense is right now. It doesn't look good for Josh Downs to play. I think you're going to see from New England what you've seen from Cleveland, New Orleans, Carolina, dropping guys back, daring the Colts to beat them deep, keeping everything in front of them, shutting down the run, which is one thing the Patriots have done pretty well. Now, a lot of that came with personnel that isn't still on the field, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think you're going to see more or less Bill Belichick go into this game with the mindset of Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor aren't going to win this game for Indianapolis. And I'm at this point, the way Gardner's been playing the last month or so, I don't have a lot of faith in him to have answers for this. I think they're going to double team Michael Pittman. I think they're going to try to make somebody out of Isaiah McKenzie, Alec Pierce, Drew Ogletree. If he plays, he's banged up as well. Colin Granson, Mo Alley Cox, somebody like that win this game for Indianapolis. Now, could it be Carolina-esque? Could there be some plays on defense that turn this around? The Patriots definitely have their struggles on the offensive side of the ball. I will say this. I go in, I said this on Boston radio last night. I go in thinking it's going to be a low-scoring game. And the last time that happened, the Browns beat the Colts 39-38. So, expect a shootout, I guess, on Sunday morning in Germany.
Those German fans, they thought they got a treat last week with 21-14 Chiefs-Dolphins. Buckle up, buddy. Yeah, according to at least George. How about 45-35? Let's just really blow it out there. Give the scoreboard in Frankfurt a workout.
Every time I think, okay, this is one of those games that's going to be like the Broncos game last year. Oh. Both teams light it up. So, neither team is coming in great form. I mean, the Colts coming off a win, but they kind of were just sort of in Charlotte while the Panthers lost. But if you look at New England, 2-7 is – I don't think anybody had that as even a remote thought in their mind coming into the year. I mean, you may have thought the Patriots are going to take a step back and, that division's getting harder, but 2-7 is almost unfathomable to the point where there's reports out there that Belichick's job's, in danger. How quickly, we can talk about that here in a little bit. But I don't think anybody disagrees with the fact that, this could be his last season in Foxborough for a number of reasons, whether they fire him, whether he steps away at the end of the year. You get crazy reports out there about potentially Mike Vrabel being a replacement down the road. I mean, it is getting to the point in Foxborough this year that it was last year in Indy as far as, people just turning the page and moving on to whatever the new era will be.
That is part of my confidence levels. I just don't think an inspired Patriots team is coming to Germany. But you mentioned before, like the game plan on defense for New England, right? Take Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss away, which I'm with you. I think that's absolutely what they'll try to do on Sunday. Obviously, the last time, well, not last year, 2 years ago, we saw Jonathan Taylor say, screw that. I'll still run for a buck plus and win the game on my back. I don't think Superman is coming out in Germany this week. But where my confidence lies, George, it's in Shane Steichen. In the sense that if they try to load the box, if they try to take away Jonathan Taylor and they sell out to stop the run game, I do trust Shane Steichen to be able to scheme open receivers, make sure the correct play is called, and have this offense still rolling. It's not really even a confidence or belief in Gardner Minshew, but I think to me, it's more belief in Shane Steichen putting these players in a position to succeed, where if he kind of sees a look from New England, he'll be able to counteract it either with a run, with a pass, swing pass, whatever, get these guys involved. Even without Josh Downs, where I do trust, I think, and he's right now earned the benefit of the doubt through 9 games, that he can still keep this offense rolling no matter what defense they played. Again, we're talking about, like you mentioned before, an offense that scored 38 points on what was, up to that point, a historically great Browns defense. So I'm just going to put a lot of belief and trust in Shane Steichen. I think he's earned it to this point. That's part of the reason why my belief is so high. And also, too, even if it is Carolina-like we saw last week with the offense not doing much, and maybe you do need a defensive score to win, I don't trust right now New England's offense to light up the scoreboard either. Like, even if it's a low-scoring game and it still kind of resembles what we saw last week, I feel even better than about the Colts, just because I don't see this Patriots team eclipsing 20 points. I'm not even sure they can honestly eclipse 14 points. They stink.
They are struggling mightily right now. There's no question about that. But we've seen the Colts wake up dormant offenses this year, and we'll see if they're in the mood to do that, or if they're in the mood to continue the suffering the way they did on Sunday in Carolina. The thing about the offense is exactly what you're talking about with Shane Steichen. They found a way every week pretty much to go out there and somehow put the pieces together, make enough plays. And the most amazing stat to me still on this year is that they've scored 20 points in every game. You just, with everything that's gone on, you just don't expect that. And I agree. If they're able to put up 20 again on Sunday, which they've done every week, they'll win this game. It's just, I think they've got, on their own personnel side, and they've had a challenge every week. It feels like there's something, well, the tackle's out, the center's out, the quarterback's out, the best running back's out. There's always been something. It's probably just recency bias for me, but just the loss of Josh Downs right now is very concerning to me for this offense.
So this is the optimist for me coming out here. The thing why I'm not freaking out, this is not a knock against Josh Downs, but why I feel confident this week is at least according to the snaps in my memory, he missed the last 3 quarters for the most part of the game. Definitely missed the second half against Carolina. So this is, again, the optimist in me kind of trying to convince myself why I'm right. I'm going to say used to. But at least Shane Steichen's had at least some time, at least a half of a game, to call an offense and run an offense without Josh Downs on the field. So it's not like he got hurt at the last play of the game, and now it's like, oh, wow, I don't know what it's like to call a game without Josh Downs on the field. He got some experience of that now. Again, the offense did not look very good in the second half. I will not, try to sugarcoat any of that from last week. But Shane Steichen at least has put Isaiah McKenzie in the field, at least has an idea of what he can do in a game-like situation. It looks like Braden Smith, after practicing full on Wednesday, looks to be right now, as you record this on Thursday morning, George, on track to play Sunday, which would be huge, obviously, for this team, and get this offensive line unit back healthy for the first time, right, since week number 1?
I think so, yeah, which is incredible.
Insane. So that's another positive step going forward here. Like you mentioned, they scored 20 points every week so far against some of the best defenses in the NFL, against some of the worst defenses in the NFL. Sometimes, like last week, they need some help with Kenny Moore going to the house not once but twice. Thank you, Kenny. But they have found ways to score 20 points. And you look at right now this Patriots offense, second lowest in the league in terms of points per game. They're averaging, to be exact, George, on the season, 15 points per game. Mac Jones not very good. The offensive line for New England is not very good. The running game is not consistent. The receivers stink. I mean, we kind of talk about some questions with the Colts playmakers and their consistency. I still think more proven and light years better right now than anything New England has. even with some questions with the Colts secondary. And so, like, this is a game where I just feel so much better about the Colts offense versus the Patriots offense. And honestly, even better about this Colts defense versus the Pats defense, to where I do feel very good here going into this game. So let me ask you this then. I'm obviously confident. Again, 95% I think they're going to win. I think it could be a blowout here. It should be a blowout, is what I'll say. What is your biggest area of concern? Is it the passing offense? Is it turnovers? Is it rush defense? Is it rush offense? Like, if you right now had to say your biggest concern going into this game against the Patriots would be?
All of the above. I mean, literally everything you just said, which is why it's concerning. But I do think, I mean, you make a good point in the fact that, you know, this week they're practicing without Downs. Last week they were, but the feeling was he was going to be able to play, and obviously he did start that game. So you weren't prepared necessarily completely the way you would be this week to go into the game without him. The game plan, everything built around the idea Josh Downs won't be there is definitely a lot different than him leaving at halftime and, you know, not being able to play in the second half and you're adjusting on the fly. That's definitely a reason for optimism. I just, right now, I don't trust this passing game. Now, that's happened before. And like I said, last time I didn't trust this passing game, they put up explosive plays like no one else in the league. So it was 7 of them against Cleveland, something insane that they were just, you know, all over the place. And there's no doubt Steichen's going to try to draw some things up. Maybe you'll see Taylor involved more in the passing game this week, trying to get the ball out in space to him and you know, help him do things that way. I know, you know, Ryan Kelly kind of mentioned there's been times this year in the past where they had to run to get a team out of base defense, and it's worked. And they're, you know, they maybe do that again. It was the last time Taylor faced this team. You know, they were 5 of 12 passing, the Colts were, and won the game. So there are definitely things that you can go back to and point, but everything you just mentioned to me is an area of concern in this game. Can they get enough production from a passing game that 3 of the last 4 weeks has been under 6 yards per passing attempt? Can they get enough from a running game that is going to be the focal point of the opposing defense? Can they shut down Ramondre Stevenson without Grover Stewart and with a run defense that's been a little suspect at times since Grover Stewart's been gone? All those things concern me. And turnovers, you know, that's always the key for this team. When the offense doesn't turn the ball over, they're 4-0. When the offense turns it over at least once, they're 0-5. So I don't think there's a more stark number you can find than that one. It's pretty much as easy as saying if they protect the football, they'll win this game on Sunday. That's probably true. But, you know, we'll see. It felt like at times on Sunday that Gardner was kind of a ticking time bomb and that, you know, turnover was coming. And I think Shane felt that too, which is part of why they went ultra conservative in the second half. And they could because they had a 2-score lead for most of that game from the second quarter on. But those are all things that I think you've got to take into account when you're trying to figure out how this game's going to go. Now, all of that being said, I can't think of very many games this season that have gone the way you would expect them to going in all year long. All 9 games they played, it's hard to pin maybe 1 or 2 of them that actually were even close to sort of what the script said it would be going in.
This team has been unpredictable. Again, the Browns game is the perfect example of that. Even the Saints game as well, kind of how that came together. So I would agree there. The one, I'm 95% confident they'll win. The 5% that's still giving me a little bit of pause is the last point you made, turnovers. Like, that's the only way I see this game losing. If they're clean, I don't see how they lose this game again. The Patriots offense is not very good. So even if the Colts offense is having a tough day like they did in Carolina, I just don't think right now this Patriots offense is good enough to even outscore now a bad Colts offense if they struggle. The only thing that gives me concern and pause is Gardner Minshew turning the ball over. Now, like, if we're talking like you mentioned, like if they turn the ball over once, they've never won a game once they turned it over once. For me, the magic number is 2. If you are -2 on Sunday, that to me is a problem. Like that's to me the only way you lose. Even if you 1-1, you know, they turn it over, you turn it over once, I think you are fine. Even if you just turn it over once and the Patriots don't turn it over at all, I still think you're fine. If you talk about -2, -3, that's when we're kind of treading into dangerous waters here. We're wading into dangerous waters. But the good news is the Patriots don't force a lot of turnovers. Like they are second, they have the second worst turnover differential in all the NFL. They don't force a ton and they give the ball away. So it is one of those things where Gardner Minshew the last 2 games has done a better job of taking care of the football. It was 1 turnover in the last 2 games compared to 8 the previous 2 games before that. So ball security has improved. And this is a defense where I do think that like kind of like now, we said that about Cleveland. They had, 4 turnovers, I think, going into that game. They forced 4 on their own against the Colts. So, again, like you said, things not going how you think they will. That was one where I did not expect, and there we are. And here I'm telling you this week again, oh, yeah, they won't turn it over that much. The Patriots don't force a lot of turnovers on defense. But that's where I think, like, that I think is the Bill Belichick game plan. I think he's going into Sunday saying, we got to force turnovers. And I was watching their game against the Commanders last Sunday. 95% of the snaps that the Commanders ran when they were on offense, the Patriots rushed 4. Like they are a big rush 4, drop 7. They're not going to bring a ton of blitzes. They're just going to basically play back, play coverage, and hope you make with your indecision or get impatient and force the ball into one of their guys. I think Shane Steichen, if he looks at that, will have plays almost kind of scripted for Gardner to throw the ball, make good decisions, and make sure he's not putting the ball in harm's way. I think that they'll take good care of the ball and won't turn it over. I just think that that's the only area, George, and you kind of mentioned it, that's the danger zone for this team. I think that's the only way this team loses on Sundays. If we're talking about a game on Sunday afternoon where they turned it over 2, 3, 4 times and couldn't get the same on the other end.
I know this much. It's another critical game. We talked last week about, is this a must-win type of game? I think this is same zone. Can you survive it? It depends on what your goals are for this year. But if you win it, you're 5-5 going into the bye week. You're going to feel a lot differently coming off of that and going into that bye week. And you can legitimately consider yourself to still be at least on the fringe of the AFC wildcard chase. It's a huge game in that regard. And it's one on paper they absolutely should get. So I think it's a big test for Shane Steichen again. I think it's a big test for just this team in general moving forward. Are they going to be a team that plays meaningful games around Thanksgiving, when things really matter in the NFL? I think this week determines that.
I like that. I think you're right about that. This is a make or break kind of week. Like this is kind of like a draw the line in the sand, especially with the bye week coming up here and the Buccaneers on the other end of that. I think you're right. Like if you are truly going to be in the playoff hunt the second half of the season, you can't lose this game. And if they do lose this game, I think Sunday we should be talking about the season's over in the sense of actual games meaning something in December. I think that I agree with 100%. If you can't beat the 2-7 Patriots, we're not talking playoffs again on this podcast. We are banning the P word from the Blue Horseshoe Pod, all right? We're not going to go Jim Mora here. Well, actually, I guess we will go Jim Mora. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? We ain't talking playoffs. And we're talking here on Sunday, George, after loss. That I could not agree more. You are spot on. And so this is also kind of one of those, like, show me games. Like, are you, like, part of, I think, being a playoff team is beating the teams you should beat. That is what this game is. The Patriots are 2-7. They're scuffling on offense. They're scuffling on defense. We'll get to this after Bill joins us here shortly. This could be a game. This could be, according to some reports, Bill Belichick's last game as Patriots head coach. That would be sweet as hell, George, if they can beat a team to get Bill Belichick fired. This is one of those show me games. If you are truly just in the playoff hunt, forget about a playoff team, just a team that should be in the hunt, you take care of business on Sunday. International trip, put it aside. Time difference, put it aside. Weirdness around the game, put it aside. Injuries, put it aside. You win this game if you are a true playoff contender, period.
I'm honestly, the way the NFL is set up and the way their schedule, formula works, I honestly think making the playoffs is 50% winning your division games and 50% winning the games you should win on your schedule. And you look at the teams that get in every year, they're usually teams with winning records in their division and teams that didn't have slip-ups against teams with losing records. They took advantage of the games they had to win. Perfect example of that right now is Pittsburgh. They're sitting there with unbelievably low numbers. I think I see nobody with this big a scoring differential on a negative side has had a winning record through 3 games in NFL history until right now. But a lot of that is because they win games like Thursday night last week against the Titans, where it's there for the taking and they make plays at the end and they come out and win the game. That, to me, do that, win the games in your division, and you're at least in the playoff hunt.
You are right about that. Take care of your business, and for the most part, you are rewarded in the NFL. Spot on, and this is one of those games. It's a taking care of business kind of game. That's what we'll dub it. Taking care of business internationally. Speaking of which, when we do return here in the Blue Horseshoe Pod, we are going international. Across the Atlantic, even deeper into Europe, Bill Rosinski, live from Germany, will join us to preview this game, talk about the atmosphere across internationally as well, and kind of get you set here for Colts-Pats. We'll do that when the Blue Horseshoe Pod returns. And welcome back into the Blue Horseshoe Podcast. George, time to go international as we welcome in Bill Rosinski on the call for Westwood One's coverage of Colts-Patriots on Sunday. Tremendous play-by-play man who is not only in Germany now, was in Germany last week as well to call the Chiefs-Dolphins game. So, Bill, welcome. Guten Tag.
Guten Tag to you. It's every day here is about the same. It's like being in Seattle. It's 50 degrees and raining all the time. Overcast today. The forecast for Sunday doesn't look too bad. I think the sun might be out, but temperature in the 40s. And fortunately, there is a roof. There's a retractable roof over the stadium. So any Colts fans who are making their way here, you're going to have to dress warm. But because if there's any rain, any precipitation, it's not a big deal. And then the other thing, based on the game last week, they have a hanging scoreboard on top of the roof, and it looks like something you'd see at a Pacers game, not your typical NFL score, but it's that four-sided thing with the screens and the score, and the punters can hit it. They one punt hit it last week, so that might come into play in the game. But I think it's going to be a fun game. Last week was great. Crowd was incredible, 50,000, and a huge game in the NFL to be played on this stage. When you think of those two teams, the Chiefs and Miami, with possibly, could be a AFC Championship game rematch later.
Absolutely. Tremendous matchup. It seemed like an insane atmosphere. You mentioned the low scoreboard. It's a good thing Pat McAfee's not the punter anymore. I'm sure he'd be aiming for it on purpose every single punt he had. But speaking of that atmosphere, Bill, you are, at least according to my crack research, I got to assume here, maybe the only man to call NFL games in 4 different countries. Here in the States, Canada, London, and now Germany as well. Being in all those different environments that you've been in, how did the German crowd last week really match up to the other 3 venues you've called so far internationally? I guess domestic.
Well, I will tell you that the game I did in Canada was when the Bills were playing some of those home games in Toronto, and they weren't very good. So they didn't even fill the stadium in Toronto. Those crowds were, which is why the Bills, thankfully, I grew up in Buffalo, so thankfully they're back playing their games where they should, and that's in Orchard Park. But I would say the crowd, this city has really embraced the game. They had a good crowd in Munich last year. I think they're going back to Munich again next year. 50,000 fans. And it's funny because when you walk down the street and you see a Dolphins jersey, a Chiefs jersey, or a Colts jersey. And by the way, I went to a Colts sports bar last night. I didn't see a lot of Colts stuff around, but they've labeled themselves an Indianapolis Colts sports bar. But you don't know if you're going, hey, you from Miami, you from Kansas City, and they're going, no, I'm from Dusseldorf, or I'm from Vienna. The NFL has really grown this into an international phenomenon. And it's gotten to the point where if you see a person walking down the street in London, in Frankfurt, and they've got an NFL jersey on, they very well could be from the city you're in, not the NFL city. So the league's done a great job. And I will tell you this, my wife and I went on a Rhine Valley bus, and there was also a cruise on the Rhine River yesterday. And the tourism guide who was on the bus told me that normally this time of year here, they shut everything down. There's nothing going on after Oktoberfest. And maybe Christmas time, they have some tourists come in and that picks up business. He told me the only reason these touring companies and some of these hotels and restaurants are open right now is because of NFL fans who have come in to Frankfurt to enjoy. There were Chiefs yesterday still hanging around, Chiefs fans hanging around, taking tours and stuff. So the people here know how important it is for this game, these fans, actually these 2 games, and these fans to come in and boost their economy. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. One thing I wanted to ask about, I know last year in Munich there were questions about the field. They put in a new turf in Frankfurt. How did things go last week? Did it seem to be pretty smooth?
Yeah. I think they did a really nice job. I think it's a mixture of really real grass and then some kind of fake stuff. But I didn't hear anybody complaining about it last week, which was great. That people complain about the officiating, of course. That's international. You can complain, complain about the officiating in the NFL, in no matter what country you're in. But the field last week, I thought it was great. And, the offensive struggled. The defenses played well last week, but I think it'll be just fine for the two teams on Sunday.
We saw last week, Bill, the Dolphins get there to Germany super early. The Chiefs got there later in the week. Both the Patriots and Colts are traveling the same time after practice on Thursday. What was how long did it take you to get acclimated to? I think it's, I believe, a 6-hour time difference in the Eastern time zone. Is leaving, I guess, Thursday night, getting there Friday morning enough time to get acclimated to the time change, the weather change, just the international change in general?
Well, you need I think a day to do it. Like when my wife and I came over, we got here, we left, I live in Charlotte. We left Charlotte on Thursday afternoon, got in Friday morning, got in about 7:00. And I think that whole day is kind of a waste. You're just, it depends on how you want to deal. Do you want to take a nap, try to catch up? You try to figure it out. So you need a full day. I think after that, you're okay. Now, Andy Reid last week said the only reason they came in late was because when they played in London back in 2015 or 16, they did the same thing and they won. So that was fine. Now, I'm sure Mike McDaniel's going to look at, if they come back here, the Dolphins, well, we showed up on Tuesday and we lost, so maybe we should go in on Friday. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to it. Now, Jacksonville was in for a couple of weeks in London. They won both their games. The Bills came in late, and they sleptwalked through 3/4 of that game. So I don't know. I think it's really a matter of how you handle it personally and as a player. Just make sure you get enough rest that first day you're there. And I don't know what the schedules will be like for the teams, but I think you got to get your sleep that first 24 hours you're in, and I think you're okay.
Yeah, I know Steichen this week has been talking about trying to keep things as normal as possible, which, I don't know how normal.
I don't know if that's normal
on a week like this, but I think that's the Colts' goal. From a national perspective, what's wrong with the Patriots this year? I mean, you look at that 2-7 record, and it seems almost unfathomable that a Bill Belichick team is scuffling this badly.
Well, they've been scuffling since Tom Brady left this team. They're a mess. They are. They're not playing well defensively, which is kind of Belichick's. That's his side of the ball. That's where he succeeds. They left one of their cornerbacks, Jackson, at home because he and the other corner missed curfew last week, so they got benched the first few series. Although Bill didn't say they were benched, everybody played. Yeah, thanks, Bill. So you got a defense that's underachieving, and they've had some injuries, granted. But the offense. These are the worst numbers, even for Mac Jones. Mac Jones won 10 games his first season in the league. He hasn't won 10 games total in the last 2 years. And he's regressed. The receivers aren't separating. The run game isn't great. The O-lines, I think they've had 11 different O-line combinations because of injuries. Andrews is the only guy who has stated, David Andrews, the only guy who has played every snap at center. So you put it all together, and you got a team that's reeling. And I'm reading stuff now this week that if he doesn't win this game, they might fire him. Coming on the heels of a story, maybe a week ago, or he's going to get a contract extension. I think we all went, what? Contract extension? But that's, are they going to be playing for Bill Belichick's job on Sunday here in Frankfurt? That to me is amazing.
It absolutely is. Words I thought we'd never be uttering. That is for sure, Bill, to say the least, especially now 10 games into the season. It's been bizarre, without a doubt. With that said, though, because it's funny, me and George were just talking about before this game, and look, it's not like the Colts are world beaters on offense, right? They have a backup quarterback in Gardner Minshew who's had his turnover problems. But you just kind of outlined from the Patriots perspective why I'm going to this game as a Colts fan, 95% positive they're going to win this game. The only doubt I really have is if the Colts just turn it over a ton and give the Patriots ample opportunities for short fields to convert. Is there anything else you can kind of look at from this matchup where the Patriots have an advantage? Because I don't really honestly see one outside of, like I said, just giving the Patriots some freebies here and giving them extra possessions.
No, I don't think there's, even Minshew. He didn't have a great week last week in Charlotte, but when your defense is scoring a couple touchdowns for you, you don't have to have a great week, and don't screw it up. Don't give the other team the ball. Don't make mistakes. This league is, regardless of how good or bad some of these teams are, many times it comes down to stuff that happens in the fourth quarter. Look at last week here. Miami's driving late in the game, and Tua throws on third down this pass. I don't know what he was thinking. He had one of his receivers wide open, underthrew him, poor pass. Then on fourth down, they go for it, and it's a snap that he should have had just off to his right. And that's how the game ends. You look at, the Patriots last week. They're in that game with Washington. They got a chance late to either, score a touchdown, get a field goal, and Juju Smith-Schuster drops a pass or has a pass deflected. It's picked off. I don't care who you are. And if you're a Colts fan, I can understand going into this game that you think you're going to win. Yeah, we're much better than these guys on both sides of the ball, but I wouldn't count anything until that gun goes off with no time left in the fourth quarter. Now, again, back to your question, I think if they don't make a lot of mistakes, and I'm talking about Indy, you got two good running backs. The receivers are okay. Your defense played really well last week. Build on that. There's a lot of teams taking advantage of playing the Panthers and gaining momentum, and I think the Colts did that last week, especially defensively, because you've been giving up 37 points or more in the 3 games before that. So I like the Colts to win this game, but then there's that other factor. Have all these Patriots players, are they buying into Bill? Do they like what's going on? Do they want to see him keep his job? And then if it's not close in the first half and the Colts have a 2-touchdown lead, 17-point lead, how do the Patriots react in the fourth quarter when you got that long flight going back to Boston and you don't know what the heck the future of your head coach is? Yeah,
we went through this last year here in Indianapolis, the whole idea of, let's just look ahead to next year. Last one for me, from a national perspective, what's the view of Shane Steichen so far? I know here in Indy, they feel like he's overcome a lot of obstacles and really, put a best foot forward. How's it look from your angle?
I think he's done fine. You go with Richardson, then he gets hurt, and you got to change quarterbacks. And Taylor was out, with the ankle issue. Then you get him back. What, they play a snap together or something like that?
One snap.
So what you had planned isn't going to happen. But now you look at your schedule, and after this, you got to bye. You got the Bucks, Baker Mayfield. Okay, you win that game. Titans. Then you got to play Cincy. You got the Steelers, Falcons, Raiders, and Texans. You can put together a run here and make the playoffs. It's so to answer your question, I think he's doing a really good job of just piecemealing things here. You got to get the defense to be consistent now. Can they put together another game like they did last week against Carolina? We'll find out on Sunday. And I will throw this note at you. I was reading all the NFL stuff they send us. Teams that are 5-5 after 10 games have a 30% chance of making the playoffs. Teams that are 4-6, it's 7%. So that's how big a game this is for Indianapolis. You get to 5-5. Hey, we're 500. We got a bye week. We can relish this thing. I think so far so good with the Colts and Shane.
That Bill lines up exactly what we were just saying before. You can't say the P word playoffs if they lose this game. that word dies on this pod. We're talking about a Patriots win on Sunday. Let's wrap up the pod with this, Bill. Appreciate the time. Let's get down to real business here. You've been in Germany now for just about a week. Beer, food, what's the best thing we've had so far, German cuisine-wise?
Oh, I would say, I had a great Italian meal one of the second nights we were here. And it's really interesting because in Frankfurt, it's very hard to find a German-style restaurant. It's a banking city, so I can find, I've got Mexican, Thai, I've got a sports bar that I found, and I've got a couple other restaurants that are in walking distance to the hotel. But if you want really German food, the schnitzel and all this other stuff, that's hard to come by. And but I would say the beer's pretty darn good. And I would say I haven't had a bad meal here yet. It was funny going to a sports bar watching. They had this is after the game last week. So there's a ton of fans in the sports bar, and they just put the Red Zone channel on like 20 TV screens. So all these people are sitting there watching the game. And then you realize, I'm a Bills fan. grew up there, and they kicked off last week at 2 a.m. here. So I wasn't paying any attention to what was going on. And as far as I was concerned, when I saw the result, that was okay.
That is true. Yeah, didn't miss much there. That is for sure. Should be a lot of fun on Sunday here. A great atmosphere. We saw last Sunday with Chiefs, Dolphins. Should be another great one here for Colts-Pats. Bill, appreciate you helping us make history here on the Blue Horseshoe Pod going international. Enjoy the game. Have a great call. And thanks so much for spending a few minutes here with us.
Thanks, guys. My pleasure. Anytime.
All right, we are back here in the Blue Horseshoe Podcast. A big thank you to Bill Rosinski live from Germany to help preview this game and also give us a perspective right now, just generally on the NFL field. The atmosphere was great, George, last week for Chiefs, Dolphins. I do expect it to be a good atmosphere as well this Sunday as well for Colts-Patriots. Two things I want to hit on here before we do give you our game pick here for week number 10. Number one, I think Bill made a great point, and it is 100% right. If the Colts get out to an early lead, I think this game is over. I think we can mirror exactly what we saw in Carolina. You get out to an early lead, milk the clock, basically just play not to turn the ball over on offense. And even if you're getting back to the Patriots, as long as you're punting the ball and not giving them a short field, I don't see this Patriots offense driving down the field multiple times to win. I think Bill is spot on. Colts rush out to a 14-3 lead, a 17-7 lead even. I think this game, honestly, is over.
I think in some ways it's a do-over of the New Orleans game with a worse opponent. I mean, the Patriots are struggling even more, but I know coming into that one, the Saints were having, players-only meetings. There was a lot of questions about the direction that they were headed, and the feeling was if the Colts could get off to a fast start, they could make something happen. I think they fell behind 7-0 right away, so it didn't go their way. But most of the year, the Colts have taken the lead early. So maybe they can get back on that track. And I think, you kind of mentioned it, before we started filming, if they can kind of mimic what they did last week and get that lead and then, put all the pressure on the other sideline. Absolutely. And I think it goes back to what is the mindset of the players right now? I mean, do they still feel that Patriot legacy? Or has there been enough time with what Tom Brady went and did in Tampa Bay that the shine's off? It'd be interesting to know where that locker room's mindset is.
I mean, I would say body language and actions speak louder than words, right? I mean, you watch this Patriots team, they don't look inspired whatsoever. They don't really play hard. It's one of those where it's just bad luck, but they're one of those teams that not a lot of talent, but really gonna almost like the Colts. Colts don't have a ton of talent, right? But they still play hard, they play inspired, and that's part of the reason why every week most of these games go down to the wire, even when you're playing more talented teams, because they are still playing spirited football and rally around their head coach. I can't say watching the Patriots this year, that's an inspired team. And I think Bill also makes another good point. Forget about just the Patriots offense. I don't think being capable of coming back if you're down 2 scores early. If you're down 2 scores early, with the rumors and future Bill Belichick swirling in the air, where in the span of 3 weeks, there was a reported contract extension that was signed in the offseason that now all of a sudden is coming to light as Bill Belichick is on the proverbial hot seat. There's another report from Mike Florio that he could be traded at the end of the year. And now you're hearing that, from the Boston Globe, he could be fired if they lose this game. 3 different stories about Bill's future in the last 3 weeks. If you're a Patriots player, and like I said, you're down 17-3 to start this game, are you playing inspired football to keep Bill employed? Or are you saying, you know what? This kind of like last year, I think the Frank Reich comparison and analogy is 100% spot on. We saw this team give up and let go of the rope. Can we see that almost a year later?
And that's absolutely the case. I mean, and a lot of it was due to the same factors you were just talking about. They had no idea what was coming. I mean, you look at that 3-week stretch for the Colts, which is similar to what's going on there now. It was different in terms of what was happening, but the same kind of chaos over that stretch where you had the benching of Matt Ryan and then the firing of the offensive coordinator and trading a popular guy in the locker room in Nyheim Hines, and then the firing of your head coach. And at the end of that, you had a group of guys that were really kind of like, where is this headed? What are we playing for, I guess, in some sense, because it's hard when I think we forget sometimes that this is these guys' livelihood. It's entertainment for us. For them, it's how they feed their family. It's their future. And when the top of the organization has instability, it affects everything about the building. And so it can't be much more shocking situation going on than New England right now. Maybe not so much that the team is not, performing at a high level, because again, we have seen that the last couple of years with them, not to this degree, but certainly the slide. But, for a franchise that's accomplished as much as this one has in 2 decades under Bill Belichick, to have these rumors, to have a reporter in the press conference ask him, are you coaching for your job on Sunday? And it be backed up by reports. Is there a more unlikely moment in the NFL this year?
No, there is not. Now I'll say this before what I say. I don't think Bill's getting fired if they lose. I think the Colts are winning this game. Shocker, I know. I just spoiled my game pick. I'm sorry. But I don't think Bill's getting fired after this game. I don't believe the reports personally. With that said, though, if I'm wrong and the Colts win and Bill is fired, let me tell you, George, I think there is no team more fitting to put Bill Belichick out to pasture than the Colts. For the battles they've had, for early on, especially the number he had against Peyton, where it was just a debacle anytime they went into New England for a playoff game, to get the revenge in 2006. This, I would put the Colts beating the Patriots, leading to Bill Belichick's firing. In terms of the Colts wins over the Patriots, the ranking, number 2. Obviously, 2006 AFC title game is number 1 by far. That, to me, honestly, is even better than the Super Bowl win, for being honest here. That's number 1. Number 2 is this win right here. If they win and get Bill Belichick fired, to have him go out because of the Colts with the Deflategate drama, with again some of the blowout losses we've seen in New England in the playoffs, in the Luck era, in the Manning era. This, George, would be sweet. The Schadenfreude is off the charts if we see Bill get his walking papers because of Gardner Minshew and Shane Steichen. Let's go.
I think probably the two teams that would be, I guess, poetic justice, or bring the story full circle, would be the Colts or the Jets, right? I mean, those are the two that probably have the most history with New England as far as animosity, as far as the rivalries go. That would be definitely a storybook kind of ending to all of this. Also, last week was Frank Reich revenge game, and it didn't come through for Frank. He's not here this week, but it's sort of a Frank Reich revenge game as well, given that his career in Indy ended after a really ugly loss to the Patriots last year. Again, I'm with you. I've talked to some people, in our company who cover the Patriots, and they just don't think that this is the case. They feel like Belichick's too ingrained, down to his sons being on the staff, that it's just not something that's likely to happen in season. Now, after the season, all bets are off. But they do not feel like it's something that's going to happen in season. But you know what? There were people saying the same thing, 2 days ago, a year ago, this year in Indy, where it was, Jim Irsay's never fired a coach in season. Things are bad, but it's not going to get that bad. And then you wake up Monday morning, November 7th, and, the world changed. So I don't think it's likely, but this is the NFL.
Things move fast, right? I think things move really fast, especially when it comes to head coaches and you're standing in the league. Again, we saw Josh McDaniels get fired. Feels like on a whim, where Mark Davis, we thought was going to be too cheap to make another move. And just like that, GM gone, head coach gone in a blink of an eye. Would be fitting that the Patriots, coaching tree gets the first 2 guys fired in terms of head coaches this year. And Bill does get the axe, but said a year from now, it would be fitting that each team got the other head coach fired within a year. Although I will say, I don't really want Bill to get fired, to be honest. I do like how the Patriots are not playing well. I don't want them to, get a spark, all of a sudden hire the next Shane Steichen next year, and all of a sudden them get back on the fast track to being good. I do enjoy them kind of right now just hanging in anonymity and just really struggling, having those fans that won 6 Super Bowls really struggle and learn what it's like to be a true NFL fan. The last 20 years, the Patriots have not been true NFL fans, which is how much they've won. I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. So welcome to reality, and I don't want that reality in New England, George, to go anywhere anytime soon. Keep Bill, keep losing, and just keep on sucking. Okay.
You want the suffering to continue.
Oh, I'm a hater. I will not hide that. As a sports fan, I'm a complete hater. If I'm miserable, I want you, the other fan, to be miserable as well. Misery loves company, and I'm going to grab you and I'm going to drag you down to my level of frustration, of pain, of anger. I don't want anyone else celebrating or having fun. It's a bad personality trait. I get it. Oh, geez. See, I'm knocking things over here. Just
Karma.
anger. Talking. Yeah, exactly right. Karma is getting me. All right, George. Let's give our picks here. It has been so far. You are the man in the lead in terms of picks, 5-4 on the season. We both got back on the winning track with the Colts beating the Panthers last week in terms of our predictions. Colts right now going to Germany, 1.5-point favorites over the Pats. The George Bremer official Blue Horseshoe prediction for Colts-Patriots Week 10 in Germany is?
Playing a soccer stadium, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to say every score is on kicks, and it's 21-15, 7-5 on field goals. Colts with the victory.
Wow. Matt Gay, get that leg warmed up. They may keep him in Germany, George, if that's the case.
Eintracht Frankfurt be offering a contract on the way out the door.
Wow. So you are going 12 field goals?
Yep, 12 field goals.
Holy
That's got to be an NFL record, right?
Has to be an NFL record. 21-15. Red zone offense, nowhere to be found. Holy cow. We thought the Ravens game we'll never see again. Matt Gay hitting 4 50-plus yard field goals. Could get a 60-yarder here on Sunday.
I know, that scoreboard, maybe not.
Franchise record.
Maybe the scoreboard will block it. But, I think it's going to be that kind of a game where I don't really think it'll be, 7 field goals to 5, but that would be fun. But I do think you're going to see red zone efficiency is going to be critical and just taking advantage of any drive where you've got a chance to score for either team.
Wow. Okay. Well, I can't top that in terms of just 12 field goals being kicked here. No offensive touchdowns and the Colts winning 21-15. I'm going to go 31-13. I think the Colts go in there, get an early lead, and then all of a sudden, I think you see the bottom fall out like we saw last year when the Colts went to New England and got down early and just mailed it in and gave up. I think that's what we're going to see here in Germany on Sunday. I think the Colts do win 31-13. They put the pressure on, and they make it what is going to be a long flight home to New England where every single Patriots fan, radio host, I'm sure will be calling for Bill's job here. And I think we're going to see absolute misery in New England like we've never seen before. Robert, there's also reports, Robert Kraft, part of the reason why that they think Bill could get fired for this game specifically, Patriots try to make some real inroads in terms of building a fan base in Germany. I believe they're one of 4 teams have rights, whatever honestly that means in terms of trying to market their team in Germany. That'd be tremendous, George. Go in there as they try to make, Germany a Patriots country. Just beat the crap out of them right in front of their own fans. Let's go.
I would assume that they're going to have, the advantage to the extent that there is one of fans. We talked about this on the previous pod, just because of that history of success. If you're, just sort of vaguely understanding the NFL from afar, New England's going to be a franchise that's going to stand out, right? Those 6 Super Bowls, and I don't know, when Tom Brady left, maybe they all jumped off the bandwagon, just like the fans here, are Lakers fans and Yankees fans, and but
bounce around.
That's a whole other story. But because you don't have any connection. I think it'd be interesting from the German side. You grow up here, you kind of root for the hometown team, right? Or you root for whoever first caught your fancy as a child. But how do you when you live in Germany, how do you pick your NFL team?
That's a good point. We saw last week it was 70% Chiefs fans. I think a lot of them were traveling over, but also too the Patriots, right? The Chiefs, took basically the baton from the Patriots in terms of being the dominant team in the NFL. It's a really good point because you're right. I think if you're a Chiefs fan, maybe in Germany, maybe beforehand you were a Patriots fan, you just got to think with how much winning they've done in 20 years with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, you'd assume maybe not every game is broadcasted, but most games internationally are broadcasted would have the Patriots featured because they're so good. So I think you're right. When you're used to being on your TV in Germany, that's one of maybe the few teams that you would grow up rooting for because it's on the TV so often. That's going to be interesting to watch on Sunday is just kind of the crowd discrepancy, the breakdown. I would assume right now it's a Patriots heavier crowd. I don't think to the level we'll see of 70-30, kind of like we saw last week with the Chiefs. But I do think we will see more Pats fans and maybe a bigger Pats contingent, pro Pats crowd, as maybe we'll say, compared to the Colts. But if you're traveling out there, enjoy it. Have a lot of fun. Hopefully, Bill gave you some good recommendations. Interesting, by the way. Go figure. You want to get some good German food? You're in Germany. Can't find it anywhere. So I guess that's something to look out for if you're listening to the pod and making plans to go out to Germany. Get ready to eat some Italian, I guess. Some Mexican food.
I tell you, the best meal I had in London was Italian. So I think that's a big thing over in Europe. They're sort of
makes sense. Like London, like what is London food? Like outside of fish and chips, what else? Like what else is there? It's a staple. It's like Ireland. Ireland has no. When I went, they have no like real food. So it's just like you get like everything else, right? Is there anything else I'm missing outside of London, outside of fish and chips?
I don't know. They put lemon in their Pepsi. That was new. I didn't see that before.
That's a whole other top. I hate it.
Comes almost like sweet tea with a little lemon on the.
Interesting.
Yeah, you never know. They don't believe in ice either. That's one thing I learned. They're not big on putting ice like in the drinks.
Really?
Well, you gotta
room temperature or is at least chilled?
Yeah, well, closer to room temperature. But like, you got to ask for the ice. So at least the places that I was. But yeah, the Italian food over there was incredible.
So good Italian food, and maybe if you're in Germany, ask for ice on the side, or ask for ice. Jeez, the Europeans hate ice.
I don't know if that's just a British thing, but yeah, that was one of the big shockers for me when we first got there.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's something to definitely keep an eye out for. I don't know. Yeah, I can't speak to Germany, but interesting. Maybe Europe just hates ice for whatever reason. Interesting. All right. Well, anyway, that'll do it for this edition of the Blue Horseshoe Pod. Appreciate Bill Rosinski for joining us live from Germany. George and I both have the Colts winning. I'm going 31-13. George is going to Kicker Fest. Hey, look, if you're a fantasy player, right now, add Matt Gay. 7 field goals for Matt Gay, 21-15. Colts do beat the Pats. We are going to be back with you live Sunday afternoon. Again, I mean, everyone knows, but just as a reminder, early game, 9:30 a.m. start here. So we'll be back around 12:30-ish, 1 o'clock, live on YouTube. Only place to find us for the post-game pod reaction will be on YouTube, Blue Horseshoe Podcast. Make sure you subscribe there. That's where you can find us to get your thoughts or hear our thoughts, but also give yours as well in the comment section to react to Colts Pats. Also, if you're listening on audio, Blue Horseshoe Podcast, appreciate you. Thank you. Again, make sure you check us out on YouTube. We'll talk to you on Sunday afternoon. Hopefully, a Colts win over the Pats and maybe the end of Bill Belichick as we know it. We'll do all that, break it all down. We'll talk to you next on Sunday. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on the Blue Horseshoe